Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So we are super excited to be back. It's funny. It's funny because people always say they get on and they say, I'm super excited. I need to try to figure out something else to say. But we are back with the Women's Professional Ministry Directory coming from the Women's Clergy Network out of Andrews University. And you do not want to miss these two women that we will be interviewing today. Angel, is there anything that you would like to say?
Yeah, I'm Angel Smith. I am the treasurer for WCN, and I'm really excited about our interviewees today. We have a special guest coming up first, Dr. Luxton, our own personal president here at Andrews University. So I'm really excited to hear her story, her journey. So I know we're about to introduce her pretty soon.
Yes, for sure. And so we're just going to get right into it. We try not to spend too much time in the preliminary, but just if you do not know, if this is your first time watching, we do have a directory, and this directory is to be used by people all over the church. Okay, so that's men, women, clergy, non-clergy members. If you're looking for women to be inspired by, to be blessed by, to be mentored, to learn from, these are women that you can go to. And so this directory is being put together so that you can scan through it, get an idea of who a person is, and then do the follow-up work by sending them an email. And so without any further ado, we would like to introduce to you Dr. Andrea Luxton. That's the noise.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, so Dr. Luxton, if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself. Angel has already let everyone know that you are the president of Andrews University. So if you do not know, now you know. This is her, Dr. Andrea Luxton. I'm actually going to put you in the middle. There we go. And so I've heard her speak several times. A big supporter of the Women's Clergy Network. And I just want to say thank you. We really appreciate that. And so if we can just get into our first question, while you are the president of Andrews University, can you share with us, how did you get involved in ministry? How did you get involved in ministry?
Well, I grew up in England, and so I was part of a very small church there, and so I was always very involved in what was happening in the church. But I think I really got when I was in the secondary school there. I was the Students Association president, and we had a bit of a revival at that time, and that had a huge impact on me and on the school. Then I went to university, and a university in England. I was in a place where there was a very small church in Northern Ireland, and I was the youth leader, pathfinder director, musician, playing a piano accordion. I was basically a bit of everything rolled into one, and I loved it. And actually made a switch there from a public university. That's why I decided I wanted to do something more directly in ministry in the church. Wasn't sure whether it'd be teaching or ministry, so I went and shifted to Newport College and studied English and theology, and that was kind of the beginning. And really got a vision for just wanting to make a difference in the church, whatever that meant. And whatever doors opened, those are the ones I wanted to go through. And that was exciting. And I guess just add one more thing. I think one other huge influence was I went as a student missionary. I went to Nigeria, and I was teaching there. And again, I just loved the feeling of participating in bringing hope to people's lives and changing lives, in this case through teaching. And so, yeah, all of those things put together, I think, just made me want to be involved in whatever ministry was out there for me.
Awesome. So am I understanding you correctly that you have a double major, a major in education and a major in theology?
Well, English and theology, yeah.
Okay.
and really enjoyed it. As students, we did our own kind of mini campaign in the local town where I was, and I got a huge. I really enjoyed evangelism, really enjoyed preaching, really enjoyed teaching. My real problem was, which way did I go? And so that was one of the big questions that was always there for me. And to say I kind of opened up all the doors, and it was teaching really that then eventually came to the fore for me. But I've always kept the other side going in ministry. Had an opportunity to do a lot of speaking and preaching, and worked in the British Union for a while later on in Sabbath school and women's ministry and education and so on. So I've kind of been engaged in church life more broadly as well as in education.
Yes, awesome. Angel, you're going to ask the next question?
I was wondering, you mentioned you switched from a public university to a Christian university. And I was wondering about that switch. Like, what was some of the major differences from?
Yeah, it was huge actually, because I grew up. I went to an Adventist school, and my mother actually and my father, they were both teachers, and I went to university to study English, and I'd always loved English literature, and then I got there and I liked it, but it felt a little bit hollow, and I thought, well, hey, what's going on here? Why? I loved it before. What was different? And my mother actually being my English teacher. So I kind of said, okay, so what was it? How would she have approached what we're just teaching? And kind of as an 18-year-old, I kind of realized, oh, wow, okay. What she added was a different value system, a different perspective, because no education is without value. There's always values going on in the classroom. It's always there. And I realized that basically I was really missing that sense of connecting my faith, what I was studying and what I was doing. And so that's really what drove me to say, I really want both. I want to study English. That's also what pushed me to study theology too. But I really want to make sure there's that faith context in what I do. The whole of me, there's not a disjuncture between my life of faith and what I'm studying intellectually.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Seeing your vocation as a calling, and even when we're doing these interviews, when we talk about women in ministry, we're not just talking about in a pastoral position. It's important that wherever we are, that we see ourselves in service to God. And so that's really cool that you made that connection in your journey. It's like, oh, something is missing.
Something's missing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we can take those values and bring them with us when we go into the working field. So what has been your leadership experience and your ministry experience? I think you talked about that a little bit already.
Yeah, so I kind of jumped to and fro. So I started as a teacher. After I'd finished my undergraduate, I got a master's degree actually here at Andrews. And then I went back into teaching, and later did my PhD, and then I went back into college teaching, right? But I kind of got involved in. I was sent on a leadership course as a young teacher, and I'd never really considered myself as a leader or administrator, but it kind of excited me because I thought, wow, okay. This is another dimension, because this is where you can really help other people grow, where you can really help bring change. To me, leadership is really creative. It's not about administration. It's not about doing this. It's not about a tick box of things you do. It's about something that's very dynamic. And so I kind of enjoyed that. So I was chair of department, and then I was asked to go into the British Union. And that was kind of when I was, as I said, in several different departments. I've traveled all the way around the country, preached every week in a different church. That was a wonderful experience. And they also asked me then to be head of the secondary school. And And then I was asked to go to be head of Newbold College. And it's like these doors open for me. And I'd always said to God, if you open a door for me and I can sense that this is your will, I will walk through that door. And from there, I went to Canada. And from there to the General Conference, and then back to Canada, and then to Andrews. So it's kind of been a journey around 3 different countries in leadership. So I've had the opportunity to be president or principal of 3 colleges, universities now, but also had leadership in other ways. So the 3 years in the General Conference was amazing. I traveled the world and to different universities, just advising, and that was great opportunity to just walk alongside people and say, hey, how can I help you? How can we change this? What seems like you're hitting a brick wall? How can we help? How can I help you work your way through that? That was fun as well.
I have a quick question. It seems like Angel does too. But I have a quick question based on something you just said. You said that when you first got into leadership, you didn't consider yourself a leader. Can you share kind of why? I know, and the reason why that sparks my interest is because many individuals see people like myself as an extrovert, right? So I have lots of expressions when I speak. I have a charismatic type personality, at least when I'm in public. And people are like, oh, she's a leader because she likes to talk. But in meeting you, you seem very much more like poised, very my assumption of you, and this may not be accurate, so correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're more introverted. Does that have anything to do with why you didn't see yourself as a leader? And are there other reasons?
I think it was just because, I grew up in a household with 2 teachers. And so I had seen myself as a teacher. And then when I got interested in ministry, I'd seen myself working with people on the people level. And I think I had somehow seen leaders up here somehow. And I had seen my strength as working directly, with someone in a classroom or with so I hadn't, I think, seen that leadership was also about people, and it was also about creating an environment. And I think I was looking at people who were up there in leadership, and it seemed like, they're not like me, right? I am more introvert. I'm more on this one-to-one thing. I'm not that powerhouse of just like extroversion, right? And so it took me a while to think, oh, hang on a minute, maybe I got a wrong idea of leadership here. It's actually far more than I had seen it as. And and I think that's the thing, is that sometimes you look at others, and that in a sense, that limits what you perceive you can be or do. And I think one of the best things for me over time has been to realize that I have to find my own voice. And it's my own voice that matters and counts. And while I'm true to myself, then I'm a leader with my strengths, not with the strengths somebody else has.
Yes, amen.
That's
Amen.
huge. It's like God has created us, uniquely.
That's right, exactly.
For a reason, for a purpose. And, we have to use our voice because God is trying to do something through that voice.
Exactly, yes.
And so all our voices matter. I think that's really cool. So you're now, moving into the next question, which is your area of expertise. So if you can talk a little bit about what your expertise is and why. And
I think, again, if I look at leadership, there's lots of different ways of leading. And I think probably the 2 things that I am strongest at, one is in kind of team building, working with individuals to build their potential. And I love to see other people succeed. There's nothing better in my mind than creating or helping people get to the point where when you leave, they can take over from you and do a better job than you. I mean, that's my idea of success. So I think mentoring and leading and team building is one. I think the other strength I have is probably creativity. I think that leadership requires you today to be constantly thinking outside the box, thinking creatively. I think my educational background in English has been huge on that. To create new possibilities, and then bring a team along to help those possibilities happen. I think that's probably where those are my greatest, I'd say, strengths.
I think it's
Yes. And that, I mean, it sounds like, and you can do that in so many different contexts, right? Like I'm saying, as one of the leaders for the Women's Clergy Network, I'm like, I could have called you to figure out how to get that team, right? I mean, you have team building needs in the local church, in organizations, right, in schools. There's so many different areas that leadership of team building that you're saying is an expertise and a specialty of yours would be needed. Angel, was there something you were going to say as well?
Yeah, I think that it's really key too that skill came from teaching.
Yeah, I absolutely it really did. And I think what teaching tells you also is when you're in a classroom and you have this whole group of students in front of you, and to me each one has this huge amazing potential, and the role of a teacher is to help bring that potential, how to get that potential the best out of the students.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing better than seeing somebody who's not getting something suddenly get it. That's just really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But it also shows you that the difference when you have a different group of different people. The best team has diversity in it. The best team has that spread of voices that are coming in, and that makes it way stronger. In my first leadership, when I was principal at Newport College, we had 2 men, 2 women on the team. And one of the men said sometimes, "This is the best team I've ever worked for. It's so good to have these different perspectives and different voices." And I think whether it's gender diversity or whether it's cultural diversity, it doesn't matter. That it just enriches the group to have that mix of perspectives and voices.
For sure.
Yes. I mean, that was an awesome point that you brought out, to say that everything that when you were trying to piece everything together and really trying to put yourself into a box, you being just obedient at that time on what your interests were, at the end of the day, they all merged together. If you can please just give everyone a message of encouragement, men and women alike, as they're watching this, if you can just give them a message of encouragement based out of the ministry that you've experienced in your own life.
Sure. And I as I was saying this, I realized that this may be an introvert's comment. So
that's all right.
But I think one of the most helpful comments for me in the Bible, and something that I think is the concept of be still and know that I am God. We have so much going on around us. It doesn't matter. Right now, yes, we're in a difficult place in this country and in this world, but beyond that, even on another level, we have these difficult times, and it just seems like everything is weighing on us. Mm-hmm. And the capacity for us to pause, hit the pause button, relax, and be still, and hear the voice of God. Mm. I think there is nothing to us that brings us more encouragement and hope than hearing that voice of God.
Yeah, amen. Amen. We have, I'm going to tell, we have Pastor Payne in the background. She'll be coming up in just a moment. So we'll have a quick commercial. And then Pastor Payne will be next. And she's in our comment section. You all can't see it, but in the background, she's like, introverts unite. And yes, introverts unite. I mean, some of the people who have poured into my life the most have been introverts. And in a large respect, can be extroverted. I have an extroverted personality, but the people who have given me deep thought, who have caused me to ponder about things, question things that needed to be questioned, and being empowered and being enriched, it has come from their practice of being still, right? As you're describing, Dr. Luxton, of being still, meditating on God, not being so caught up in so much activity. And so I received that. Thank you so much for that word. And we will have a quick, like I said, a very quick commercial break, just to tell everyone about the Women's Clergy directory that we're doing right now. And then next we'll hear from Pastor Payne.
Hello, my name is D. London Anderson, and I am the president of the Women's Clergy Network here at Andrews University for the 2020 through 2021 school year. Along with our treasurer, Angel Smith, our communications coordinator, Sandra Stabine, and our mentoring coordinator, Kristen Thomas. And this year's team, that's right, this year's team has an exciting new initiative that I would like to tell you more about. Are you ready? It is the Women's Professional Ministry Directory. The Women's Professional Ministry Directory is a video-based ministry that will provide female and male students pursuing ministry with the opportunity to identify potential mentoring and networking relationships, while also providing inspiration and affirmation in their ministry calling. The directory may also be used by church members and community leaders who are seeking the ministry of powerful and gifted women that are currently walking in their calling. Each directory entry is a video of a dedicated Christian woman sharing their past experiences, educational background, ministry expertise, and interests. These women will include pastors, chaplains, and even those that are dedicated to ministry while they are functioning in their varying career fields. If this is you, if you fit into that category of a pastor, a chaplain, or a woman who's dedicated to ministry, and you're walking in that calling, even though you may be in a different career field, I ask that you please email us at wcn@andrews.edu. We will respond to you with more information and instructions on how to record and upload your directory entry. Also, for those of you who are saying, number one, I'm not a woman, or number two, I'm not necessarily, I don't necessarily fit within those categories, we still have a task for you. Please share this. Share this with women that have been inspirational to you in your life. Share this with pastors, with ministry leaders, with chaplains, that within your local context across the globe, so that they will also have the opportunity to be a part of this video directory. Again, our email is wcn@andrews.edu. And this is how you may get in contact with us to gain more information about what it is that we're looking for and how to upload your video or their video.
Okay, hello. We're back.
Hello.
And we have Pastor Payne with us. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. There's a lot going on today. There's been a lot going on this week. And so I appreciate you taking a few moments of your time to be a part of this directory.
Absolutely. How are you, ladies? It's good to see you. Good to be here. Thank you so much for what you're doing. It's incredible. You're doing an incredible job.
We appreciate that. We appreciate the encouragement. You've been encouraging us through since you came on. In the background, giving encouragement when we were talking all together, and you came back on giving more encouragement. It seems like one of your gifts is the gift of encouragement, and so I just want to affirm that and say how much we have appreciated you even so far before we dug into your life a little bit, into your ministry life at least. Angel, do you have any words?
Oh, no, I'm ready to jump right into it. I'll start off with the first question, which is, how did you get involved in ministry?
That's a good question. It started a while back. So I grew up in Toronto, and in my home church where I grew up, I think I was just, because of the mentorship of the community, at that time, they were the young adults who were pouring into the teens, and they were the AY leaders who said, hey, you know what, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have our own young people do it. And so they were the ones to give me, I will always say her name, Pauline Christian, this wonderful woman in the home church I grew up. She said, you're going to preach. And she gave me my first opportunity to speak. And, the youth director of the conference was putting together something great for our conference for the youth. And they selected different youth from around the city. I was one of them. You're going to speak, you're going to preach. And so, being a part of the AY team as a teen, having those opportunities to participate in ministry in that way. And then I went away to school. I went to Andrews to pursue physical therapy. Angel. I did physical therapy. Yeah, I did pre-PT. And while I was doing the pre-PT part, the undergrad, I was serving as the BSCF religious vice. Right. And so doing ministry in that way. And then I got in the PT program, and then I was my class chaplain. I don't know what God was trying to tell me that whole time. Right. And then, after graduating from, PT school, I, did my full-time PT job. But at my home church, the elder came and said, hey, you know what, would you serve as our personal ministries leader? I said, okay, young adult, I said, sure, and my team was seniors, and so it was interesting. So, did that. And then all the while, during that whole season, feeling and sensing that God was calling me to something more. Not like I wanted to hear it, because I was in school for a long time, right? And I was doing my dream job. I was like, this is what I wanted to do.
That's a lot of work you put in.
My God, I'm finally getting paid. This hard work finally pays off. The hard work, you put in. It's like, thank you, Jesus. And then I hear the voice to call, I hear that calling me more. So, one day I packed up my bags, went to seminary. Oh my goodness. And so, what a journey, right? And when I went to seminary, I didn't know exactly which direction this was going, right? And I didn't want to assume it was pastoral ministry. In fact, I did not want to assume it was pastoral ministry.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. I was like, So, I did it and went through and finished. And I said, okay, God, I'm just going to be still. I'm going to stay around here, keep on doing the last thing I knew to do until you tell me something else, right? And, the desire then started to grow. The dissatisfaction was doing PT, because I was doing that while in school. I was like, I want to give all my time to ministry, to pastoral, then I started to say pastoral ministry, started to say that. And it's like, it didn't, and the desire started growing toward pastoral ministry. So after, PT school, after seminary, I was continue doing PT, but I was still involved in ministry. I was involved in ministry at a church at Chicago, just went down there. The pastor invited me to just minister to the young adults in informal capacity. But, ended up meeting my husband. Didn't know he was going to be my husband at the time. But, just doing ministry in informal capacity down there. And then, long story shorter, I get a call from the Lake Region Conference and inviting me to interview for a pastoral position. By this time, I realized it's the direction that God was leading me at this time, and so I said, okay, this must be the time. So here I go. So that's what happened.
Pastor Payne, you just spoke my story. Like, all of the struggles and everything. The only part I haven't finished seminary and met my husband yet. So I'm just,
Girl,
now I know that's down the line.
just be obedient, just one step at a time.
Amen.
Yes, that's good. That's good. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so, just really quick, something that I want to highlight that Angel is saying that she resonates with is that if you're out there and you're in some other career field, you're like, nursing is my ministry, being a physical therapist is my ministry, being a doctor, a social worker is my ministry. And God is telling you he wants more. He wants more from you in a ministry. You don't know what God may say, you can continue to be a nurse and just be heavily involved in your church, be heavily involved in your community. You can continue to be a social worker and be a Christian-based social worker. God may be saying that, but for those of you like Pastor Payne, if you are reluctant, but the Spirit of the Lord has been speaking to you, whether you are a male or a female, and you have already put in years of education in the different career field, be obedient to the Lord, because this is what Pastor Payne has done, and it has been a blessing to her life. And I'll let her tell you more about that. If you can, Pastor Payne, please tell us what you are currently doing in ministry. What are your current ministry endeavors?
Yeah, currently, I continue to serve in the Lake Region Conference. I am the lead or senior pastor, if you'd call it, at the Conant Gardens, Seventh-day Adventist Church in Detroit, Michigan. So we came here and started pastoring this congregation. January will be 2 years.
Okay.
Before that, I was serving in Indianapolis, lead pastor over 2 congregations there. And so I've been now in pastoral ministry. This is my 9th year officially. Yeah,
Okay.
that doesn't count the other volunteer years,
Right.
So.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
We know about that. But yes, and you just put something out there recently. If you can tell us a little bit about that and how that feeds into, exactly what I'm talking about. Your book. If you can tell us a little bit about your book and how that's a part of kind of your ministry endeavors right now.
Yeah, it's actually a part of my story, So I released a book only by the grace of God. Again, a step of obedience, right? Released a book in June. I was impressed, to kind of write. I went through this. It's called The Fight for My Life, what I discovered as I triumphed through tragedy. And you just don't know what life has in store, right? You don't know what tomorrow has. You don't know what the next moment has. Certainly 2020 caught us all by surprise. You just don't know.
Right.
And so I had one of those moments in my life, like what's happening. But God saw us through. God saw me through by his grace, right? And so I've written about it. And that has the reason was, well, Lord, I just want to encourage D. London. I want to encourage other people who are who might be facing a challenge, like, a difficulty in their life. And I was believing that if I shared my story, even if it was just for one person, it would be good enough. So my pain wouldn't be wasted in that way. And so I did. And as it turns out, more than one person is being encouraged by it. And I'm so excited by the grace of God, and so that has been a tremendous journey and a tremendous opportunity to reach people that otherwise would never be able to reach in my current position.
That's awesome.
I think that's something interesting. I think about humanity in general. It's just like we're all different. We're all going through different things, but we all are united. Everyone experiences pain, and somehow, something so horrible actually can bring together. It's amazing how God takes the worst things and he uses it to unite, to encourage. Just like by sharing your struggle, you can encourage someone. Like, I think that's
I mean, pain is universal, right? whether you're a Christian, a Buddhist, a a part of the Hindu, Muslim, like we all go through pain. And so or don't have any deep faith at all. There may be people watching that don't have any deep faith at all. And so if I can just share with you all really quick the book, so you know what it looks like, and the title of it, you can find it on Amazon. It is called The Fight for My Life. I will take this down, The Fight for My Life. And you can find this book by Pastor Payne on Amazon. Her website is also there, Tricia Payne, wynnpayne.com. And yeah, I mean, I have seen lots of good things about the book. It was real, it's raw. And I believe something that you said, Pastor Payne, that I really want to highlight is that you didn't go out to write this book to make yourself famous, right? You didn't go out writing this book trying to obtain this certain type of, let's say, worldly success, right? Like you wrote this book in obedience to God. This is something that God did in your life, and then God told you, now go write your story so that you can be a blessing and reach people that may never walk into your church, right? Or that you may never see face to face until we're all on the sea of glass. Yeah, if there's anything you would like to say to elaborate on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we never know, like, that impression from God, he speaks to us in different ways. Write your story. It's like, okay. And for me, the way it goes, it's so important to obey God. You don't know why he may be telling you to do something, or you may be led by him to do something, and you don't have to see it all. Moses was just in a seas in front of me. Pharaoh's army's behind me. What do you want me to do? What you talking to me for, Moses? Take your rod, go in there, and go step inside. What? He didn't know what was going to happen, but God knew, right? And so for me, it was like, just write it. I said, okay. And here I was starting to write it. And then I was attending we have this thing, Lake Region Conference called the CFL, Christian Fellowship League, right? And so I was out one night supporting my husband. He's a commissioner. I was like, yeah, go boo. I'm in the stands, right? Yay, do your thing. And I happened to sit beside someone I knew. I met in ministry in Indianapolis, just random, sat beside her. She looked at me and she said, so when you write your book? I said, how did you know? I felt God has impressed me to write, and and I started to tell her the struggle, and I don't even know how do you do that, write a book? And then she connected me with someone just like that, connected me with a publisher. Okay, and the rest is history. But it's so important because you don't know who you're going to reach. I've had the opportunity to share it with neighbors, people otherwise I wouldn't be able to have faith conversations with. I'm talking about folks, from back in high school. I went to public high school. Just people. It's just awesome. And so, and then there are people who are going through sickness, adversity, and hearing them say, hey, this really encouraged me. I'm so glad I read it, or that kind of thing. It comforts me and encourages me. It brings a different level of healing because God is like, your pain isn't wasted. What we go through is much bigger than ourselves, right? So much bigger than me. And whatever else God wants to do with it, I don't know. But I'm grateful that it's been a blessing. Yeah.
I think these are two beautiful stories you have, with Dr. Luxton, her story of walking with God, where, there's this element of being still. And she's like being still and noticing something's not right, something's missing. And she realized, wait, there's a calling, there's a bigger purpose here. Like that's missing in my vocation, these values and principles that I gained from Christ. And then here with you and your walk with God, you are realizing the importance of being obedient in your walk with God. So we have being still in your walk with God, and we also have being obedient with your walk with God. And I think those are two beautiful concepts in our walk with Christ. Our next question for you is about expertise. So what is your area of expertise? And
or multiple, if you have more than one, right?
This question is tricky. I'm going to tell y'all, don't ask me this question. I don't know about this question is tricky. Expertise. I don't know that I can say I've arrived at an area of expertise. Is that fair? I think I serve in my capacity currently. It propels me to continue to grow and develop. And so I started off as an associate pastor, right? This was in Chicago at Shiloh, and because I didn't want to go out on my own at first. I wanted to stay there longer. And in that area, God really blessed young adult ministry. We're doing cool and innovative things. We started stuff, man, but then I got moved. I felt like I was about to take off, and then, in a different area of ministry where different giftings have to kind of, you got to focus on different
each congregation.
Each congregation requires something different. But I think because I've served in a congregation that was so multicultural, my last congregation where I had over 14 nations represented in one church.
Wow.
What was required to be able to pastor and bring everybody together and still do ministry together was different. And then now where I am, different, which is where I'm growing a lot more in my administrative skills, because ministry here requires it. But if you were to ask friends, I think they would say I'm the preaching pastor. I'm the preaching pastor, and I think I enjoy that very much. And so I love encouraging people, and I really enjoy mentoring. So
awesome. So yes, I mean, it is a tricky question, right? You started off by saying sometimes it's an uncomfortable type question, because sometimes when we say expertise, it's this idea that we know everything there is to know in this area, and that's not what we mean by it, but we just mean what you just said. What are your interests in ministry? What is your specialty in ministry? What things have you found yourself to do, and God has blessed for you to be able to do them well? And so I hear you saying that those things are youth ministry, young adult ministry, preaching seems like it's at the top of the list, as well as writing a book. And that's not something that you knew before you did it, but now that you've done it and you had the support and the help that you needed to get that done, this is something that you can potentially help somebody else with. And that's the purpose of the question, is to say, what is your specialty? What is your expertise? So that as men and women are watching this interview, they can say, you know what, I want to learn from Pastor Payne how I can preach better, more effectively, be that much more of a blessing to people when I preach. I want to talk to Pastor Payne about ways that I can better edify the young adults and the youth that I am trying to minister to. Maybe she has some ideas, some tips, and some tricks so that I can be more effective. And so thank you so much for answering that question.
Yeah, I think that's really key. And that's a really good nugget. Like sometimes we might feel not equipped, or like we don't have the know-all with certain things. But what's more important than being an expert is being obedient. That's what I heard in your response. It's like, I was here and I did this, and then I came here and it was something different. And it's just like, over expertise is being obedient to God, because He does train and equip and give us wisdom.
Right, that Angel.
That was all you.
Yes. Okay, so then our next question is, what is your ministry and leadership experience been like? Yeah, if you can answer that question.
What has it been like? An adventure. Been an adventure.
Yeah. Hold on. For sure, that's
it's been
real.
an adventure. I mean,
it's a whole different field into you.
Oh yeah. It's been an adventure.
Yeah,
it's been an adventure because the transition and into pastoral ministry as a woman, right? It's been an adventure. So starting off first as an associate pastor, that was great. That was so much fun. It's a different demand, different responsibility in terms. I felt like so much a part of a congregation and the youth and the teens and the young adults, and it was just such a natural fit. And I didn't feel like I was working. In fact, I was there at that church for not even almost 7 months, and they gave the biggest farewell. Like I felt I didn't realize I'd made any difference, right? I was just being here, you know? So, I mean, it was wonderful. And then learning how to work with a senior, learning how to lead from the second chair. If any of you are, before you go and be an associate, I recommend that book, Leading from the Second Chair. You can Google it. I strongly recommend that. That is a skill, to learn how to lead from the second chair and understand all the various aspects of ministry. I think in seminary sometimes, and because I like to preach and I did a lot, ministry is not only preaching, it's just this piece of the pie. Ministry is so much more. It's the visitation, it's listening, it's being present, it's planning, it's praying, it's praying. There's so many different aspects. As a pastor, you are an administrator, you're a shepherd, you're a counselor, you're all these things and more. And so I think my first stop in official ministry was learning that there is so much more. And then on my own, when I went on my own, oh man, talk about trial by fire, man. You got to learn how to do a whole bunch of things that you just didn't realize. Hey, was there a class in seminary about this? Did I miss this? Or what? I don't think this was taught, right? So, if it was, I might have been asleep. But so, you learn, finance, got to learn how to read those financial reports, understand what it's tithe, it's offering. But if you don't know how to run things properly, it's still, you have to deal with it in a business-like way. And so it's just so much. But overall, it's been a great adventure and just moment by moment with Jesus.
I love that word, adventure.
It's been an adventure. That's real. I mean, that's what I hear that a lot. You learn as you go.
There are the ups, there are the downs, there are hills, there are valleys, celebration points, and struggles.
Absolutely. That's keeping it real.
Yeah.
Yes.
Could you, we would like to close with a message of encouragement. Could you please share a message of encouragement, a word of encouragement for us?
A word, yeah.
Word of message. Like, so you want me to go 30 minutes?
I know. I've been thinking about this, and I just want to share. Run the race that is set before you. Let me just stop right there. So much I could say tonight. Run the race that is set before you. Right? Everybody's race is not the same, right?
Right.
And everybody's pace is not the same.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might feel like you've got to compare yourself to somebody else. Oh, I didn't get as much done as this person, or I'm not doing as much. No, run the race that is set before you. Be clear about what it is that God is showing you to do, the type of ministry God is showing you to do, and run that race. And be faithful. And be faithful. Be faithful. Sometimes you may be waiting to get a call from a conference to validate your ministry, to validate your calling. Run the race God set for you where he has placed you.
Yeah.
And if it's God's will, if that's what he wants for you, he wants a conference to call you, pray, and he will make that happen. But if God's called you to ministry, minister.
Yes.
Where you are, minister, and run the race God has set before you.
Yes. Amen. Yes. That's good. Amen. I received that into my spirit, because as you asked before we came live, Angela and I are both unsponsored seminarians, right? And I think that's an awesome word to say. God has called you to ministry, whether you're hired or not. Your obedience, right? That thing of obedience is to God. And so wherever you're at, whatever you have before you, the tools that God has given you, that you already have, the needs that you see that are in front of you, the giftedness, the calling that you see, and deal with that. And don't be so focused on, oh, that person got it done when they were such and such an age, when they were younger, or, oh, that person went straight from here to there and I'm still here, right? And I mean, I hear you saying all of that in that message, to run the race that is set before you and not focusing on those that are running beside you, ahead of you, or behind you for the sake of comparison. And belittling what God has set before you. I received that message. Thank you so much, Pastor Payne. And if you all want to be in contact with Pastor Payne, we will be putting her email address. You can email her, reach out to her for advice, for to get to know her better in terms of ministry. If you want to learn how to preach, if you want to learn more about her journey, and if you want to learn more about her book. And once again, before we say goodbye, I would like to show you her book again. And her book is called The Fight for My Life. You can find this book on Amazon. Is a quick place that you can find it. You all know how to use Amazon. You know how to do that. So The Fight for My Life. And this is her walk and her journey with God, what God has done in her life, something that has secured her faith, even while she was a pastor. Am I correct that you were already pastoring? And so this is not a coming to Jesus moment in that I was out there wilding out and then the Lord caught me. This is even when you have chosen Jesus Christ, there are trials and tribulations to be endured, to overcome. And when you do, you encourage others. And this is what Pastor Payne has done. You all have a blessed evening. Check out PELK. It's happening right now. If you haven't registered, quick nugget to check PELK out. You have one today and tomorrow is it. But blessings, everybody, and good night. God bless.